Hey everybody, it's Rob. I'm back. I'm doing another walkthrough. Today we're going to be doing a walkthrough of Hack the Box's Forest machine, which is a Windows domain controller, and it's really good for um, demonstrating some attacks on Active Directory, which is really what I've been focusing on because the exams that I'm going to be taking are Active Directory heavy. Uh, it's rated as easy. There's no way I view this as an easy box. I needed some help on this. I was able to get a foothold and a user account pretty quick. But after that, I needed to do some research and see some examples of how to actually exploit the system. That being said, there's a lot to learn through this walkthrough, so I figured I would do it and hope, that me going through it and explaining some of this stuff, even though I'm not an expert, might help somebody else. So as you can see, I'm connected to Hack the Box's VPN, and I spawned the machine Forest. So there's my IP address. I come up here. I ran an Nmap scan on it, and there's quite a bit going on, but that's because it's a domain controller, like I said. So you see up here sudo nmap service version detection T4. I did an aggressive scan, all ports, and the IP address of the machine. So it came back with things that you would typically see on a domain controller, including a couple of other interesting things. So, Kerberos, DNS, NetBIOS, LDAP, SMB. You have something here, 5985, which gives me a clue that maybe we'll be utilizing something like Evil WinRM at some point. And there's a whole bunch of RPC ports, etc. You can see SMB signing is required. Obviously, it's a server, so typically that's the case when you come across a server as SMB. Signing is required. What I did, the first thing that I did was I used a tool called enum for Linux. So I think that's what we're going to do first here. Enum for Linux, and I think you have to put a -a in here. And that's not the right IP address, so we're going to drop the right IP address in here. And it's going to start to run. Enum for Linux is going to probe the machine and come back with any information that it can. So we'll see what it comes back with. I can tell you it came back with a lot the last time I ran it, and I was kind of surprised. And there it is right there. I don't know if you saw that flash by, but we were able to enumerate a whole bunch of users off this machine, which means you don't need to, it's letting you query LDAP without providing any kind of credentials. So that's bad. So we'll finish letting enum for Linux run. It should be wrapping up here shortly. This is one thing that I'm not fond of Try Hack Me and Hack the Box. I think their machines they're rated. I think the ratings are faulty, and I think they're faulty to the easier. So like they're saying that machines are easy when I don't think machines are easy. I've tended to like offsets machines better. To me, they just seem more realistic, um, and they are rated a little bit better in my opinion. So anyway, you can see here that enum for Linux is finished, and there's a bunch of good information here. So first and foremost, we saw a bunch of users. So definitely want to do something with this. I'm going to copy this actually. Copy. Let's open up another tab and we'll do something like nano users.txt. Paste this in here. Okay, Control O, Control X. And then what we'll do is we'll do a little magic with awk. So if we cat that file, you can see there are brackets in every single one of these. I'm going to use the brackets as a delimiter and break this up into columns, and then I'll just select looks like it will be column number 2. Okay, so we'll do awk. And if you don't know how to use some of the regex stuff in Linux, I highly recommend you learn. So awk. So that should register the delimiters as the inside bracket and the outside bracket. I had to reverse these because awk treats everything inside these outside brackets as special. So just trust me, you got to do that. Then we want to do print, and we want column 2. And we want to do this on users.txt, and let's see what happens. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to send this to a file called, let's call it user list.txt. And then we'll cat user list.txt. Okay. So I don't know if I need to explain what we just did here. So I got this user list here from enum for Linux, and I wanted to clean it up because obviously I don't need all of this other stuff. I just need the actual username. So what I did was I just used awk to basically use these brackets, the inside and the outside brackets, as delimiters. And then if you look, if you use this, for example, as a delimiter, this would be column 1. This would be column 2, and so on, right? So that's why when I say print column 2, it prints the username. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. If it's not, and you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to try and help you. All right, so now that we have a list of users, one of the things that we can do is check for any kind of AS rep roasting. What I'm really looking to do is trying to get some kind of credentials so that I can, even if it's not, an elevated set of credentials, so I can maybe do some further enumeration using Bloodhound. And to get information into Bloodhound, you need some kind of credentials. I mean, I've even just used a computer account from an Active Directory domain to get what I need so that I can look at the domain information in Bloodhound. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a command called get, and you can see I have it pretty much typed out here already, get NP users. So this is basically looking at all of these users and seeing if any of them have Kerberos pre-authentication not required checked on their account. And Kerberos, Not requiring Kerberos pre-authentication is a bad thing. You shouldn't have that checked ever. The only use case that I've kind of read about is that if you have an application that doesn't support pre-authentication using Kerberos, and if that's the case, you need to find a different application, because this really is bad, because it lets you grab information about that account with no authentication whatsoever. And you'll see what I mean. Basically, what we're doing with this command, with this get npusers.py command, is we're looking at the domain. We're going to look at all the users in this file that I just created, and we're going to check against the domain controller if we can AS rep roast them. Okay. And you can see we're passing no password, right? And then the DCIP IP address is the address of the domain controller. So what we're going to do is we'll hit enter on that. Oh, and you see how when it's not set, when that box is not checked, you don't see that, right? But lo and behold, right here, we have this service alfresco at Hack the Box local. It has that do not require Kerberos pre-authentication checked. And do you see what it did? It just gave us the hashed credentials for that account. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to copy these credentials, copy selection, and we're going to nano hash.txt. We're going to paste the credential in here. Okay, we're going to hit Control O, Control X, and then we're going to do Hydra. No, Hashcat, sorry. Hashcat. And you want to pay attention here because this is a Kerberos hash. You want to use the Hashcat mode's going to be 18200. If it was NTLM, depending on the version, it would either be 1000 or 5600. But for these Kerberos hashes, you need to use 18200. Okay, so we're going to hit enter, and it's going to do its thing. Hashcat. I'm just using the Rocky list. All right, and we cracked the password. So if you look up here, it's service with a 3. Okay, so we're in pretty good shape right now because we had nothing, and now we have a set of credentials. Not 100% sure what we can do with these credentials just yet, but I can tell you this. We can use them to enumerate the domain further and get information into Bloodhound. Okay. So what we can do is there's an ingester called Bloodhound-Python for Bloodhound that I'm going to use, and I'm going to pass these credentials into that and see what comes back. So I actually have it typed out already here, so you don't have to watch me struggle to type it. And this is what it's going to look like. So we got Bloodhound -Python. The domain is hackthebox.local. The user is this service-alfresco. The password is the password we just cracked. And then the name server, which is the domain controller, is this IP address, and we want everything we can get. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter. And I can tell it's working already because we're getting information back here. So all right, so if we do an ls, you can see there's a bunch of JSON files here now. So what we're going to do is use Bloodhound. I am not an expert in Bloodhound, but I can tell you this. It's a really cool tool that you need to get comfortable with to be able to see pathways to being able to exploit a domain. It'll show you Kerberoastable users. It'll show you the shortest path to domain admin. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff that you can do with it. So if you've never used it, it uses Neo4j. So the first thing you need to do is start Neo4j. So the command for that is sudo neo4j console. I hit enter. Neo4j is going to start up. And it's going to give you a website you can click on to make sure. Now, if this is the first time it's right here. See, it says localhost 7474. If you just right click on that and open link, it's going to open up a web browser. Now, if this is the first time you're logging in, you're going to need to change the Neo4j default credentials. I think the first time you log in, it's Neo4j, Neo4j. Obviously, you're going to want to remember that password. So set it to something that you can remember, because you're going to need it every single time you use Bloodhound, because you're going to have to log in. Okay. So we have Neo4j running. I've already been logged into it, so I'm good to go. I'm going to open up another terminal, and I'm just going to type Bloodhound. And then Bloodhound is using your Neo4j username and password. So you're going to want to, and you'll see it's opened up on 7687 localhost, right? So Neo4j, and then whatever you set your Neo4j password to. All right. So Bloodhound is opened. The first time you open it, there'll be nothing in there. Here is where all the database magic is going to happen. Right now, like I said, there's nothing there. Over here is where you're going to do a lot of the important stuff, like upload data. So if you remember all those JSON files we downloaded using the bloodhound-python command, we're going to upload that. So I'm going to click upload data. I'm going to go to other locations, home, and then here's all of the JSON files. So you just basically highlight all of them, click open. It's going to upload all these files. May take a minute or two. I usually just clear finished. Clear finished. Clear finished. All right. So all the data has been uploaded into Bloodhound. Now, when we come back over here, if we go to analysis, there's well, you can look at database info first, and it will tell you what's in there. So there's 25 relationships, 19 ACLs, 10 groups, 2 computers. I mean, it tells you everything. Okay. And this actually will work in turn with something called Plumhound, which is a nice tool too. A little bit of a pain to get working. You got to do it in a virtual Python environment. We'll save that for another day because we don't really need it for this walkthrough. So if we come to analysis, you can find all domain admins. It'll tell you, who the domain admins are in the domain. Domain trusts, nothing. Find computers with unsupported operating systems. I mean, this is a good tool if you're an Active Directory administrator in general, just to see some of the stuff regarding your domain. So find principals with DC sync right. You have to select the domain, and you can just scroll in and out and highlight things, and it's great. So what I usually do right off the bat is I find, list Kerberoastable accounts. This one, you're never going to, it's, we shows up and it's not really kind of a legit target. It's the actual ticket granting ticket service. Find ASP roastable accounts. And here, lo and behold, our service alfresco shows up, which means the do not require Kerberos pre-authentication was checked on this service account. Here's where some of the more interesting stuff comes up too. Find the shortest path to domain admin. If I click on that, it brings up this nice graph. So you can see actually we're right here, Service Al Fresco. And if you click on it, it gives you a bunch of information about the user. But you can see a lot of relationships here. Like you can see Service Al Fresco is a member of service accounts, which is a member of privileged IT accounts, right? Which can PS remote into forest hackthebox.local, which to me means we're going to try WinRM with these credentials as well. But if we come up here too, you can look, there's a whole bunch of relationships that are going to work to our advantage here, okay? This big thing right here, if you look, there's many pieces of information here that you might be able to use around how to exploit this domain. But the big thing is this, essentially, okay? Service Al Fresco is a member of service accounts, which is a member of privileged IT accounts, which can PS remote into Hack the Box local, and it has DC sync rights, which if you look here, there's actually there was an exploitation that was able to be done using relaying authentication, right? Via write DACL and DC sync rights, and being a member of the exchange groups, because exchange typically is over authorized to do stuff. I'm not an expert in this, but I can tell you that because we have this service account in all of these groups, we're going to be able to do some stuff like add a user to the domain and add that user to the exchange group, which has write DACL and DC sync, which allows us to basically try to act as a domain controller and replicate credentials. Okay, so that's the way that we're gonna be exploiting this box. And I'm gonna be completely open and honest here. I needed help with this, right? I had to, especially with this second part, right? Like I had no problem getting to this point. The next step was where I struggled a bit. So ultimately, I found a couple of posts where people posted some examples of how to exploit when something like this pops up. And I'm going to show you how that works. But if you didn't have Bloodhound, you wouldn't be able to see these relationships and how everything works, like how these accounts are members of multiple groups. And as you know, when you're a member of a group, you inherit the permissions of that group, and if you're nested, you're going to get the most permissions that you have available to you based on those groups. So, and I know that's a little confusing. My apologies, but I digress. What we're going to do here is we're going to try to use WinRM to log into this machine. So there's a tool called Evil WinRM, and we're going to log in with that account. And I think it's 129.99.213. And this should get us a command prompt. Okay. So if I do who am I, I'm the service. Okay. So the way this attack works and the way we're going to exploit the fact that this service account is in privileged IT user groups, etc., is we're going to use it to add another user to the domain, add that user to the Exchange Trusted Subsystem group. Then we're going to do an NTLM relay to basically force the credentials to sync, and use the argument escalate user, which is going to elevate the privileges of that user. It's pretty complicated. I apologize, but I'll show you the commands that are used to do it. Okay. So first, we're going to do net user. Let's just call this guy. Let's go with Jerry because for those of you who've been watching the videos know I like Jerry. So we got Jerry, and we want to add Jerry. So we're going to give Jerry a password, or password 1. I don't know what the complexity requirements of the domain are, so I'm just going to say password 1. And then we're going to add him to the domain. I mean, everybody should know how to add a user to a Windows computer from the command line, so it's not magic. Okay, so Jerry's been created. Now we're going to add Jerry to the group Exchange trusted subsystem, right? So do that by net group. And I believe Exchange trusted, can't spell, sorry. And we're going to add Jerry, and then we're going to add him. That's what we're doing. Okay. Now, this is the tricky part that I definitely needed some help with. I found somebody who showed you how to use ntlmrelay, which is another in-packet tool, to kind of force the replication of the credentials and to elevate Jerry's access. And the thing you have to do is when you kick this command off, you have to go to the browser and go to the local host 127.0.0.7, and it's going to pop up with credentials. You add Jerry's credentials, and it should work from there. Okay, you should have elevated rights on the domain, and you should be able to do something like secretsdump, or even well, no, I would start with secretsdump, get all the hashes, and then you can use the domain administrator's hash to log in, theoretically, right? Which we're going to do in actuality here. So just pay attention because this is a little confusing, right? So we're going to do ntlm relay, and we actually have to do this on your attack box. So after you create the user and add the user to the domain, you got to go back to your attack box, and this is where we're going to do ntlm relay. Our user's name is Jerry, and the IP address is 99.213. Now, this is where you can get confused if you don't pay attention. So we hit enter, and it looks like it's waiting for something. It is waiting for something. You got to open up a browser and go to 127.0.0.1, and you'll get this prompt. So now we put in Jerry. Okay, you'll get this page can't be found. But if you go back to your, you see this? Now it's telling you to try using DC sync with secretsdump and this user. So what we're going to do is we're going to type secretsdump, which is another in-packet, and we're going to do Jerry, and it's colon password 1 at 10.129.99.213. And I think I made a mistake here. Hold on 1 second. Secretsdump. Oh no, we're good. And there you go. We're dumping the secrets for the domain controller. So you can see up here we have the domain admin hash. So you don't even need to crack that. What you can do is you can copy this hash, which is what we're going to do. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste it into a command that I'm going to type. So what you can do is I'm just going to clear my screen. Just yep, clear. And we're going to do ps exec. And we want to change this IP address to 99.213. And you see I'm using the hash. I'm not using a password or anything. I do who am I? NT authority system. So that's how you get root on this box. It's a little convoluted. There's no way this is an easy box. No way. Just that's the way I feel about it. I think this box is at least a medium. There were some things on here that I hadn't done before, like this NTLM relay attack that was escalating a user's privileges. So it's another thing that I learned and that I'll keep in my notes and try and keep in my data banks so that I can use it in the future. But that's why it's important to make sure users are configured correctly, because if you don't see anything that you can Kerber roast, maybe you can AS rep roast, which is, again, the user having that box check that says do not require Kerber roast pre-authentication, which you should not have set. That should not be set unless you have a valid use case, and it should be temporary at best. It's just not a good a safe thing to do. You're just opening yourself up. So hopefully this was helpful to everybody. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks, guys. Bye.